I've got this one friend of mine who recently started SARMs. Now, personally, I'm against doing any type of SARMs. I believe that naturally you can increase your testosterone levels to TRT levels. So like 1000 to 1500 testosterone. But the thing with him starting SARMs is that honestly, he's been doing it for like 2 months and there's not been much of a difference. The only difference I saw in his physique could be like easily assigned to like a placebo effect. And what I think is wrong about him is that he never tried to increase his testosterone naturally, but not only that, I believe that he doesn't have a high enough androgen receptor density. Basically, he's not sensitive enough to the androgens. So he's not sensitive enough to the SARMs, to the drugs he's taking. This means that for him, even if he was to inject testosterone, he wouldn't experience that much of a upregulation in masculine gene expression, which is basically the thing we're all looking for. Because you've probably already heard about like trying to increase your testosterone and all the things you can do to increase your testosterone. But testosterone is useless if you don't have the androgen receptors. Basically, testosterone binds with the androgen receptors and then it goes inside the nucleus of the cell, and that's where you start expressing masculine genes. This means that androgen receptors could be the bottleneck of that whole process. Now, honestly, it's more rare and people don't talk about androgen receptors enough, but these things are extremely important. So now you're probably wondering, how do I increase my androgen receptor density? Or in other words, my androgen sensitivity. Well, first, I just want to tell you that everything that increases testosterone naturally will increase your androgen receptor density, at least most of it. This means that if you're considering taking SARMs or TRT, so basically just increasing your androgens without increasing your androgen receptor density, you should still try to increase your testosterone naturally, because the things you do to increase your testosterone naturally increases your androgen receptor density. But since I talk a lot about how to increase your testosterone naturally, I'm not going to talk about any of that in this video. I'm simply going to talk about things that we don't talk about enough. Things that focuses on increasing androgen receptor density. Now, whilst I was doing research, I've been researching that topic for like a year now, one of the first things that came up was sexual health. Now, this might sound weird, but I'm going to give you a little study as an example. There's this study on rats where basically they add like these little male rats and then they just put it like a bunch of female rats in the same environment. Therefore, the male rats started having a lot of sex. And they saw that whenever the male rat was like ejaculating, he basically had a reduction in androgen receptor density for like 24 hours to like 72 hours. Depending on like how much he ejaculated. So this means that if you were to ejaculate daily, which honestly like most guys are probably doing that, this means that you would be reducing your androgen receptor density every single day. Now, am I telling you to get on semen retention or on NoFap? Well, maybe that's actually what you should do. But personally, and from like my friend's story, my personal story, it's quite hard to absolutely stop ejaculating whatsoever. Especially like if you're young like I am, you're a high testosterone guy, it's gonna be hard. Now personally, I'm on NoFap, so you don't touch your willy, but I do have sex. And even if I was to like not have sex, I have a lot of wet dreams. This means that for me and for a lot of guys I know, it's quite impossible to like not ejaculate once a week, because if you absolutely try not to do it, your body will do it on its own. But yeah, not ejaculating as much as you're currently doing will actually increase your androgen receptor density, especially your brain's androgen receptor density. So that was basically the first way you could focus on increasing your androgen receptor density. Now the second way is, yes, a way I talk a lot about, like if you want to increase your testosterone naturally, but it's actually extremely potent at increasing your androgen receptor density. So I would be a fool if I was to not mention it, but it's reducing estrogenics. Basically, you got your androgen receptor. If a estrogenic particle, so something that's estrogen-like a endocrine disruptor, could actually, and it will, bind to the androgen receptor. Therefore, if you have a lot of estrogenic particles, and they're all binding to these androgen receptors, you will have less available androgen receptors. Meaning, in a way, like you'll have the same amount of androgen receptors, but they'll be less available, so you'll be less sensitive to androgens. So you need to reduce your estrogenic intake. And personally, I strongly believe that like simply reducing estrogenics is like one of the best way to increase not only your testosterone but also your androgen sensitivity. Because all of the high testosterone biohackers, what they all have in common is that they avoid estrogenics. Now quickly, I just made a full video, a full detailed guide of like 24 action steps on how you can personally reduce the amount of estrogenics you're intaking. But quickly, I'll just give you a quick like general way to decrease your estrogenic intake. It's basically to avoid plastic as much as you can and also avoid these weird chemicals that you don't know the name of, if I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So that's the second way. So far we talked about sexual health and estrogenics. Now the next way is also an extremely potent way at increasing your androgen receptor density, and that is quick, intense stress. Now when I'm talking about quick, intense stress, I'm not talking about like emotional stress or like psychological stress. I'm simply talking about like hard physical stress. Now, this hard physical stress needs to not last for too long. So this means that like running for like 40 miles, that's way too long. I'm talking about like sprinting, about heavy weight lifting. Actually, heavy weight lifting is the one that has been the most research on increasing your androgen receptor density. So it kept popping up as I was doing my research. So heavy weight lifting, you're probably already going to the gym. So I mean, you put on more weight, you do less rep, but like you keep it as intense as you can. And next is sprinting. Now, personally, I don't really like going on runs except when it's with friends. But if you do a sport, I'll give you an example. If you play American football, well, football is one of the best sport at increasing your androgen receptor density. It's quick, intense stress, and it's pure physical strength. You got your sprinting and you've got your pushing. Because without any type of like intense stress, like heavy weightlifting or sprinting, your body is not gonna feel the need to upregulate the androgen receptor density inside your body. So those are basically the three most potent ways at increasing your androgen receptor density. Now the next one is more like a bonus tip because it's a supplement you can take easy enough, and it's creatine. Now, creatine, we all know about it, like it's one of the best supplements you can possibly take, but here's one more reason why you should take it, because not only does creatine, like yes, it increases muscle growth, it also increases androgens. It increases slightly testosterone, but what it actually increases by a lot is DHT. Now, DHT is a very great hormone because it's basically testosterone, but if it was more potent. Therefore, it's gonna have a greater androgen activity. But creatine does not only do those two things, it actually also increases androgen receptor density. So one more reason why you should take it. That's basically it for today's video. If you'd be interested in one-to-one coaching call with me, there's a link in the description, you click on it and you decide when you want to have a call with me, and we just have a one-to-one chat. I give you personal advice if you need some. So if you want that, go click the link in the description. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Mwah.